I remember it like it was yesterday when my family and I moved into a new condo. At the time, my dad was a street vendor in the city, and I worked with him. We sold electronics and repaired cell phones and tablets. I was 23 years old then. Always a skinny guy. The condo had a gym, and I started watching some fitness channels, hoping to get in shape and improve my physical appearance. I was in my second to last year of studying economics, and already knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I enjoyed working with my dad and liked what I did. I wanted to follow in his footsteps. On my first day at the gym, I felt like a fish out of water. Everyone there was fit and muscular. Guys like me, skinny and awkward, were rare. There was a girl named Marta who lived in the same building. I used to see her in the elevator all the time. She was 20 years old, always polite and friendly. We gradually became friends. I would often see her at the gym, but I stayed focused on my workouts and didn't bother her. She was a pretty girl, not stunning, maybe a 6 or 7 out of 10, but always put together. I'm tall, about 6'1", 1.85, but skinny. Back in college, they used to call me Palmito, a type of palm tree. They made fun of me for being tall, super white and thin. I took it all in stride. I had a thing for Marta, but I was never the type to approach her at the gym. One day, at a little square near our building, I struck up a conversation and asked her out to the movies. She hit me with the classic line, "Look, Ronaldo, you're a nice guy, but I just got out of a relationship 3 months ago. I really want to be alone right now." I understood, said no problem, and we remained friends, still talked regularly. About 3 days later, I noticed Marta eyeing an older guy at the gym, probably around 30. He looked confident and well put together, someone who stood out. She walked over to where he was working out and tried to strike up a conversation. And it worked. They started talking regularly. That weekend, I saw them at the mall, making out in the food court. I have to admit, I was frustrated. Just a few days earlier, she said she wanted to be alone. I figured maybe I just wasn't good enough in her eyes at that time. But that was fine. I let it go and stayed focused on improving myself. A couple of months later, I noticed the guy had started avoiding her. He probably got what he wanted and was trying to back off. Eventually, he even stopped going to the gym altogether. I saw Marta in the elevator again. She greeted me, and we chatted a bit. The next day, she was already chatting up another guy at the gym, someone I actually knew. He worked at a real estate agency and had been helping my dad look for commercial space since our business was growing. Here's the kicker. The guy was married and had 2 young kids. About a year went by, and it was one of the best years of my life. I graduated, and our business went from a tiny 3x3 booth in a street market to a 50-square-meter store. In addition to selling electronics and doing repairs, we started importing computer parts and became a local reference in tech. I hit my fitness goals and was finally proud of the shape I was in. For the first time in my life, women started noticing me. I even got some flirtatious looks and compliments. I went out with a few girls in the neighborhood, and my self-esteem was through the roof. After about 4 months without seeing Marta, I ran into her again. This time, she was pregnant. I simply said hello, didn't intend to talk much, but she started opening up. I spent some time at my dad's place. I couldn't stay here with my mom. I was in a relationship and ended up getting pregnant. The guy was divorced, but he went back to his ex-wife. I didn't agree with a lot of what he did, so I decided it was better to be alone. I didn't say anything, but I knew she was talking about the guy from the real estate agency. He was never actually divorced, but I pretended I didn't know. A month later, she had the baby. Since we lived on the same floor, she invited me and my sister to her baby shower. I went, and even brought a gift. I'd often see her on my way to the gym. She'd be at the playground with her son. She didn't go to the gym anymore, probably because of the baby and work. One Saturday, she came to our store to pick up her phone from a repair. I didn't even know she was one of our clients. By then, we had 5 employees, and my dad and I were more focused on managing the business. When she saw me, she asked, "You work here?" One of our staff laughed and said, "He's the owner." "Ma'am, be sure to say I treated you well so I can get a raise." She blushed and said, "Wow, that's great. I always shop for accessories here." I smiled and said, "Glad to hear you're our customer." I had an appointment, so I said, "Goodbye." She smiled flirtatiously and said, I hope I see you around. And just like I expected, she started trying to get closer. It felt like she was waiting for me to be alone so she could strike up conversations. One day, after the gym, she stopped me and said, "Wow, you're really in shape. You don't even look like that skinny guy I knew a few years ago." I laughed and said, "Yeah, you gotta take care of yourself, right?" She asked if I was dating anyone. I told her I had been seeing someone, but we had different goals and ended it. She smiled and said, "Remember when you invited me to the movies?" I replied, "Of course I remember. You said you had just gotten out of a relationship and wanted to be alone," she said. "Wow, that's right. You've got a good memory, huh?" I added, "I also remember that later that same week, you started dating that guy from the gym." She looked embarrassed. "That guy was an idiot. I should have gone to the movies with you." I looked at her and said, "Let's be honest. Back then, you didn't think I was good enough for you, did you?" She got a bit flustered and said, "It's not like that. I was just in a different place in my life. But maybe now we could get to know each other better." "What do you think?" I replied. "With all due respect, your current situation just doesn't fit into my life. You're a mother now, and being with you would come with responsibilities that aren't mine. And honestly, I don't want that." I continued. "Back then, I understood that I wasn't what you were looking for. But now we're in very different places, and you're not what I'm looking for either. I hope you understand that, just like I understood you back then." She gave me a tight smile, said she needed to check on her son, and walked away. Since then, I've continued to greet her when we cross paths, but I don't engage in conversation. Still, I've noticed her watching me from a distance. Sometimes I think some women like her suffer from Peter Pan syndrome. They believe they'll stay young and beautiful forever. They think the guys they once rejected will always be there, waiting for them, just in case no one better comes along. That's why I say this. Be like a duck, calm on the surface, but paddling like crazy underneath. Stay focused on your goals. Success will come.